Hello, Steve Arts 89. Well, what's happening with comedians? First, Roseanne was red-pilled, and now Jerry seems to be red-pilled. He came out and made some incredibly stupid, short-sighted statement about how work has destroyed comedy. And the far left has destroyed comedy. Now, there are some extremists who, probably are guilty of that, but it's a dog whistle to right-wing extremists, and I'm just really surprised that Jerry went that way. I mean, I think alarmingly, the audience is very split at the moment. It's very tribal, and you're either a right-wing extremist, Trump supporting, they're all in together, they're all really well connected and really unified, and then you have the other side who are all over the place, all attacking each other because they all sort of want to be the most woke. And then there's the moderates who seem to be on that side but not happy with the extremists getting all the attention and being sort of seen as the general sort of people on that side. And it's a mess, because part of what he's saying is true, but why is he saying it? Is he saying it because he's generally expressing frustration with those people who cause trouble, or is he just trying to, blow a dog whistle for all the right wings so they come to his shows because he wants their money, because they're a pretty stable audience? You look at people, even on YouTube, look at people like Doomcock and Nerdrotic and all those geeks and games, all those people who pander to the Trump supporters and the right-wing bigots and the racists and the homophobes, and all those people, they're really loyal and consistent, and they feed them their daily sort of dose of hatred, and they love it. Whereas the other side, they're all over the place because they're not unified. They're all sort of doing their own thing, because partly the problem is those people are more intelligent and can think for themselves. They don't just follow the group. They're not sheep. Whereas the right are total sheep, and they're very unified. They're like a group of, like if you've ever seen a flock of sheep being moved, they all just go together. That's what it's like. Whereas the other side, because again, more intelligent, intellectual individuals who have different perspectives, they can't all just follow the leader and support everyone the same way. So in some ways, even though the audience has sort of been split, the right side is really unified and the other side is a mess. So a lot of films that are being aimed at particular groups, minorities and that, they're not getting the full support of everyone, whereas the ones, that are racist and homophobic and, misogynistic and everything, they get the full support of the right, which is this unified group who's not 50% of America, but they're so unified and so well coordinated that they're really powerful. So it's just really disturbing, because I think there's more people on the other side, but they're all in different groups and they're not unified. So it's just a mess. So that's my perspective of the situation. Now, the word woke originated from black people basically saying you're either asleep and unaware of the racism and bigotry that was happening, or you were awake, so you were woke. And woke people were the people who understood that there were problems that needed to be dealt with, and that was a good thing. But then at some point, because the right is smart, they said we need to turn that into a bad term. We need to make that a negative thing and undermine it. And now it's used to mean anyone who is forward-thinking or progressive or intelligent even, or believes in science, or believes in history. They're all woke, and it's a big nasty threat to all the right-wing people who want to be led by I nearly said democracy, that's the opposite, a fascist. And that's something really disturbing about American culture at the moment, and something I'm realizing is so many people want to be led. They actually do want a fascist government. They want to be told how to think. They're people who can't think for themselves. They're not intelligent enough to work out life, and they're used to following someone. They need this idea of a powerful leader that will tell them what to do and they can follow. And there's that unity of all following in that group of sheep that is very attractive. Whereas the individuals out on their own thinking for themselves, it's a very lonely place. So yeah, I find it really disturbing, and I'm afraid for America. I'm afraid that they are going to vote in a fascist and Donald Trump, who's promising to dismantle democracy. And some people want this because well, I don't know what's wrong with them. I guess they just can't think for themselves. They need to be led, and it's just so much easier to be a gimp, basically, and just do what you're told. Whereas when you have to think and make the decisions for yourself and stand up for people and protect people and fight for your rights as well, it's so much harder and more complicated. And, it's just a big mess, and Jerry stepped right in the middle of it. And The Rock did as well. A while ago, he made a statement about how, and it seems to be mixed up with his persona, because his wrestling persona apparently was he was a bad guy, which I didn't know because I saw him when he first started back in the day, and then I sort of stopped watching wrestling as I got older. And at some point he became a villain, but when he went to Hollywood, even though apparently he was all I heard about him was he was a huge a-hole, and he would bully smaller people, and he particularly was really cruel and abusive to fans who weren't like big and muscly like him. I've seen a few videos. He was really hideous, and I thought, he's disgusting. I'd never watch one of his films, have anything to do with him. I got the impression he changed, and I watched a couple of his films, but I've seen some douchery here and there, so I'm not really sure. I think he is a bit of a right-wing bully, a bit of a, I'm big and strong, I should be able to decide what everyone else, thinks, because that's how those people think. So apparently his films haven't been doing so well since, he sort of stepped into the DC curse. And that side hasn't supported him because he's not white. He has benefited from diversity and representation. Some of his biggest films, like Moana, they're not exactly, so why he would turn on those people, I guess because, like I said, they didn't support him in a united way. So it's a safer bet to go back to his wrestling roots, which he's done, play the villain, and pander to all these racists and bigots and right-wing people who like to watch violence and fighting and all that, and the idea of the strong man and they idolize this. It's a whole nother video to explain all that side of things in male melodrama, and how the right wing has really co-opted that whole thing. It's all part of toxic masculinity and everything, and how that's sort of replaced male melodrama, which used to be the sort of core of wrestling and all that side of thing. It's just a mess. But so it appears Jerry Seinfeld has been red-pilled, or he's playing that card because he wants the bums in seats, and that's what you get when you pander to the right wing and the extremists. And it looks like The Rock's doing the same thing, but it could possibly be part of the persona he's trying to push, but it's very short-sighted because he's alienating his film audience. And if he wants those back, if he wants to be a film star again, alienating everyone by vilifying EDI and diversity and representation, all the things that have benefit him, because he wants representation for... I've totally forgotten where he's from. I just know he's not white, and he's been promoting a lot of his culture here and there I've seen, but I'm totally blanking out on exactly where he's from. But he's benefited from that on one level, so he can't now turn on that. And I don't understand how his best hope on the right is to become a diversity shield. And that really isn't, a good place to be, or a good thing to be. So he needs to realise that's not his home. He's not one of them. He's not going to pass. He's never going to pass. He's not going to be wide enough for them ever. Even if he's a big, muscly, strong man on that level, he's never going to be wide enough for them. So he needs to be okay with the other side of things. And just because there are a few extremists on the left, just like there's extremists on the right, doesn't mean everyone thinks like that and acts like that. And most people are moderate. They just want equality. They want, a fair shake of everything. And they want everyone else to be treated well as well. So it's some extremists who use it for their own, benefit, their own attention seeking, and to make themselves feel important. The SJWs, they're a small part of the whole group, and they're not woke. They are what has now been used to represent woke on the right, because they're the worst of the left, and they've been used, to vilify and undermine everyone else. But they do exist. So that's the thing. Denying they exist to defend the rest doesn't work, because we've all seen them and know they exist. Just like denying the extremists on the right doesn't help the right defend themselves. The people who are conservative, it doesn't help them defend themselves, because the extreme right, are there. And if you try and deny them while trying to distance yourself from them, it doesn't work, because we know they exist. So this turned into a much bigger, more complicated video. It's supposed to be about Jerry Seinfeld, although it's feeling like Jerry Springer is the sort of where all this is going. But yeah, I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I might try and do a shorter video. I might try and do a shorter version of this video. But yeah, America's a mess. Like I said, they're divided, and we've got a unified majority of hate and another ununified sort of diversity and representation, all the moderate people who can't sort of make up their minds about exactly who they want to stand behind and who they want to support, whereas everyone on the other side is unified, and they are far more dangerous and far more powerful and far more, together. So it's just a huge mess because they're pushing towards fascism, and democracy can't sort itself out. So it's very scary.